Brought to you by Squarespace and their design intelligence. Don't let your eyes fool you, this isn't a passenger plane. It's a purpose-built submarine hunter. The Japanese in their island nation turned inward when it came to build their next generation of aerial maritime defense, and this is what they came up with. With multiple hardpoints, giant forward windows, and the first fly-by-optic aircraft in the world, this colossal bird keeps periscopes down and apparently is even better than the American equivalent, the Boeing P-8 Poseidian. But what if I told you that this project has a much deeper potential, and it might even be the solution to the current Airbus and Boeing duopoly? Hawking back to the post-World War era of converting bombers to passenger planes, this airframe is positioned perfectly to swoop in and dominate the regional aircraft market, putting the West on their back foot. Let's deep dive into the incredible Kawasaki P-1 and its dreams of a Japanese regional airliner. Japan, being an island nation, has operated several maritime surveillance aircraft ever since the end of World War II, with the latest in 2001 being the propeller Lockheed P-3C. Now, this being a plane that was designed in 1961, you can imagine that the mecha-obsessed Japanese are not impressed, and after looking at the market, there really wasn't an aircraft that suited the archipelago nation's needs. Now, that's what they've said, quoting things like that they need an aircraft that can fly from Japan to Hawaii. But the American-built 737-based P-8 maritime aircraft would have been a simple, cheaper, off-the-shelf solution to defend their coastlines. But for the Japanese, they also saw this as a chance to boost their domestic production and hone their skills at building an aircraft from scratch. Japan has always wanted to keep their own industry strong and self-sufficient as possible, rather than just buy stuff made elsewhere. So they decided to go it alone and start the PX program and build two aircraft. Yes, I said two because this aircraft was also built in tandem with a new cargo transport called the CX. This plane would also be built by the prime contractor Kawasaki and was designed to replace the C-130 Hercules for the Japanese Defense Forces. By building both at the same time, the money could be saved across everything from cockpit windows, flight controls, and even the power units, saving billions on development. The engineers would also develop a homegrown engine called the F7, and initial tests showed that it had a bypass ratio of 8:1, which was reported as being substantially higher than rivals such as the General Electric CF34-8E. And this will come back later because we're going to talk all about this engine when it comes to the passenger aircraft version. Now, you could imagine that the USA was not happy that Japan was building its own aircraft and insisted that they work together on their own US-led multi-mission maritime aircraft, the P-8 essentially. However, the Japanese were concerned that it would not be built in time, with the P-8 taking a longer time than their homegrown solution and also not fit their requirements, so they pushed ahead on their own solo mission, with the P-1 taking to the sky in September of 2007. So if you're going to make a submarine hunter from scratch, what would you do differently? I have to commend the Japanese for choosing to go it alone and build their own aircraft instead of an off-the-shelf solution. It's like they looked and said, yeah, templates don't work for us. And you know what? It shouldn't work for you and your business as well. That's why I recommend the new Squarespace Design Intelligence, that you never have to use a template website again like everyone else. That's right, the amazing Squarespace website creator has combined 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with their own cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential yet. Squarespace will actually recommend a fantastic design to reach your goals, creating a more beautiful, personalized website, crafting a bespoke digital identity, and never look like a template again. But building a website is only the beginning with Squarespace, because you can also run email campaigns, get more customers, and even launch courses. So if you want to teach something to the world, Squarespace is now your one-stop shop for your entire educational portal. I use Squarespace for my own shop called foundandexplained.shop, so I can wholeheartedly recommend them. So when you're ready to give it a go, head to squarespace.com/found to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Well, first, you would have exceptionally big windows. Huge windows. It's a bit hard to see when it's flying by itself, but if we were to show the aircraft next to the 737 base P-8, its main rival, you'll really see how big its windows are. These huge windows make spotting from the aircraft significantly easier than the 737. But unlike the 737 that has 2 engines, you'll notice that this aircraft has 4, which is a radical departure from the design philosophy of the time. Well, first, having 4 engines mean that this aircraft can run on just 3 in case of combat or other issues. It also gives it better maneuverability and stability at low speeds when flying low over the water. Plus, the high bypass turbofans are not only more fuel efficient than turboprops, but they're quieter, meaning submarines are less likely to detect the plane flying overhead, as in acoustically. Plus, this is the first aircraft in the world to not have manual flight controls or even fly-by-wire controls. Instead, it uses fly-by optics, replacing wires with optical fiber cables. This is mainly to prevent electromagnetic disturbances from the submarine detection sensors, but also means quicker response times because it's all based on the speed of light. And those sensors, well, they're powerful enough to detect the submarine below the waves. They have 3 radar antennas that form an array that can provide 240 degrees of coverage, infrared detection that can scan the surface of the sea, and a magnetic anomaly detector in the tail that can see anything artificial below the waterline. And of course, when the plane picks up an anomaly, it will deploy a sono buoy to ping it under the surface. They can beam back the audio to listen for any submarine propellers as well. So what do they do when they find a submarine? Well, let's talk about the weapons. It has 8 hardpoints on the wings that can hold torpedoes, mines, depth charges, and air-to-surface missiles, as well as normal bombs. But it also has a large cargo bay that has 8 bomb stations for up to 9,000 kilos of destruction. So you know that once it finds a submarine, the boat is a sitting duck. But this aircraft is much more than just a weapons platform. At one point, it also had the potential to be the future of the regional jet market. And boy, Kawasaki was ambitious with their ideas. Now, as we mentioned, this aircraft, side by side with the P-8, is roughly the same size, and the P-8 is based on the Boeing 737, which gets you thinking, what if the Japanese turned the P-1 into a passenger aircraft to rival the 737 and the Airbus A320? Called the YPX program, and this was the idea to move the aircraft over with some modifications to the civil market, starting with Japan and then going head-to-head with international sales. It would use extensive technology of the submarine hunter, such as the wing, the fuselage, the empennage, the cockpit, and even the same large windows. However, a passenger plane doesn't need the combat redundancy, and they would drop 2 of the 4 engines, and obviously the weapon hardpoints. There would also be significantly more windows on board, as the P-1 didn't really have any passenger windows, meaning that clients would be sitting in the dark. This aircraft would have 93 to 150 seats in a 2-3 configuration, much like the Airbus A220, targeting cash operations 15% lower than that of the Boeing 737-700 on short-haul routes. It would be slightly bigger than that of the Mitsubishi MRJ regional jet, starting the humble beginnings of Japan's domestic airliner industry. And who knows, maybe after this they could have gone bigger with something of a rival of the 787 Dreamliner, which was already being manufactured in Japan. And because this passenger plane would be based on an existing already flying aircraft, the P-1, the plan was to have it in customer hands within 5 years of purchasing, beating the long wait times for a 737 or the Airbus A320, or even the upcoming Airbus A220 at the time. Not bad, Japan. However, entry into service, originally planned for 2012, was formally pushed back to 2015. And then watching this 10 years later, you're scratching your head thinking, what the heck happened? The 7-year development timeline now means that the aircraft would not possibly be delivered before the next decade, if ever. because it seems that the sticking point for the aircraft passenger concept was its 4 engines. To take away 2 of them proved to be a harder engineering puzzle than just unscrewing some bolts. With even the Ministry of Defense and Kawasaki Heavy Industries pointing out in 2012 that a passenger aircraft based entirely on the XP-1 would have little markability and would require significant design changes that would be almost completely new, making it difficult to justify. And looking at the absolute struggle that the Airbus A220 was to come to market, you can see that these regional jets are a bit of a tough cookie to try and sell. But I still like to think that had they gone ahead, it would have been a little thorn in the side of Airbus and Boeing, and perhaps the industry shakeup that we need. So what is the future of this submarine hunter aircraft if not a passenger plane? Since 2014, Japan has actively pursued opportunities to export the Kawasaki P-1 to other countries. New Zealand was the first country to receive an offer for the P-1, as geographically, the country is very similar to the Northern Asian archipelago. A Japanese official described the competition for this sale as a one-on-one fight with Boeing's P-8 Presidian patrol plane. To enhance its appeal to the New Zealanders, Japan proposed a package deal that included not only the patrol plane, but also the C-2 transport aircraft, emphasizing the operational advantages of the commonality between these 2 fleets. However, in July of 2018, New Zealand would ultimately select the P-8 Presidian over the P-1. And this makes you wonder, why did the New Zealanders choose this plane over the P-1? Well, Japanese officials have asserted that the P-1 offers superior capabilities compared to the P-8, although at a much higher cost. The key advantages of the P-1 include a longer operational range, a larger bomb bay, a design specifically optimized for patrol missions. It wasn't a passenger plane turned into a submarine hunter, but despite all of these strengths, the aircraft has still faced challenges in terms of production and cost efficiency. The New Zealanders were concerned that they may not get the plane in time and that the cost was significantly higher than they're willing to spend for an aircraft that they could get cheaper elsewhere. And these production costs have been an issue. Until 2015, the P-1 was manufactured at a relatively slow pace, with only 1 or 2 units being delivered annually, which if you compare to the production of the Boeing 737 is insane. To try and mitigate this issue, Japan would place a bulk order for 20 P-1s in 2015, a move intended to reduce the per unit cost through economies of scale and make it much more appealing for foreign sales. Currently, as of today, 34 of these aircraft have been built, with plans to eventually build 30 more units to fully replace the aging fleet of P-3C Orion aircraft in the Japanese Defense Force. The production rates have also increased, with the goal of delivering approximately 5 aircraft per year. However, this hasn't been enough to sway other international sales. They have since tried to sell it to Germany and the United Kingdom, but both of those countries have gone eventually with the Boeing P-8 Presidian instead, which is a little bit of a shame. So perhaps this aircraft is reaching the end of its production run. You're probably wondering what's next. Well, in September of 2023, Kawasaki Heavy Industries announced plans to initiate a replacement project of the P-1, signaling the beginning of efforts to develop a next generation of Japan's maritime patrol capabilities. And this time round, you've got to wonder if they're going to keep the passenger plane flexibility in mind when it comes to designing this aircraft, because I really think there is a fantastic potential for there to be not only a regional passenger jet, but also a private business jet in this market, because a submarine hunter aircraft actually does kind of fit the capabilities of a private jet, able to fly long distances, land at small airports, and also, if the end of the world came, be equipped with several submarine hunter missiles. Well, at least I know 1 or 2 billionaires who would like that capability. So watch this space, and thanks for watching.